So, right, let's get into the agenda. Jamarra Ugle-Hagan made his way back to Whitten Oval today for the first time since he took personal leave in April. He's been through a period of private rehabilitation and then a fitness campaign that he's made public. Last week, he, behind the scenes, met with the key figures at the Western Bulldogs to clear the way for today. And then a big step, he fronted the full meeting of players and staff. He was contrite and apologetic around some of his behaviour in the past, and he committed himself to resuming his football career. Yep. I feel like all the way through, Gaz, you've had the most compassionate view on this, the don't give up and don't give up on him. And some of that played out before us today.
Yeah, and this is a good football club right now and making a lot of good decisions, Jared. And the thing about this is that he comes back on the Western Bulldogs' terms. That's the most important thing about all of this. You want to play? You come back to what he has had to come back to them, and you come back on our terms, and now we'll see what it looks like from here. It's a long shot, and that would be what they're selling to him. You've got ground to make up, but I just love the fact that he's back there. I love a redemption story, Jared. You know, and clearly he's been not at the professional level, but I'll tell you what, I can go through history. I can go back through history in a lesser time where players used to get away with stuff. And he can't, and that's not such a bad thing. And it's all been played out in public, and we know where he's at, and you know everyone gets a pretty good read on some of his issues. So now, if you want to play footy, you come back on our terms, and you put 1 foot wrong, then you probably won't. But if you want to come back and you put your head down, you work your backside off, and you win some trust and respect back, you know, 6 weeks' time, 4 weeks' time, you get a run in the VFL, and that gives you six weeks. And I tell you what, Jared, if he has a great 6 weeks in the VFL leading into a final series, Ugle-Hagan, Darcy and Norton, good luck for the opposition. But it's a big, big if. Yeah,
so that's the long shot. Is that a 4 to 6 week block to get himself football ready?
Yep.
And then if he survives all of that into the VFL program, it plays out on two fronts. One there is that he remains a Western Bulldogs contracted player next year. This is not the final year of his contract. So it's in both of their interests, if he's committed to giving himself a chance, is to go about that. And the other motivation for the Bulldogs is if he is going to request a trade at some point, is that there's too much scarring, too much has happened over a long period of time. They don't want him to be a distressed asset that ends up being free to a good home. They want him to be a commodity that they'll be able to get something for if that is his desire long term. Yeah. So they both have a key stake in this. And we'd be guessing if we forecast where it was going to end up.
Yeah, and he may, again, guessing. So either two things will happen is he'll get his act together and stay at the Western Bulldogs and hopefully have a really long and celebrated career, or in his own mind he's going, well, I've got to get back and I've got to work hard and then, you know, get the other scenario on the table, which is where else can I go? And they'll be much more inclined to make a play for him if he can prove to himself and others for the next 10 weeks that he can commit to footy. But as I said, there'll be a lot of people talking it down. There'll be a lot of those out there in the media just, you know, screaming from this. Go. This is a great redemption story potentially in the making.
Yeah, give yourself a chance.
Thursday night at Marvel Stadium, and it was the return of the AFL's unicorn. The return from that injury, 8 weeks on from that knee injury against the same team. What were we to expect? Well, the unicorn hasn't missed a beat. 9 marks, 3 goals, 2, and a 72-point win to the Bulldogs. Wowee, Sam Darcy. He's incredible, isn't he?
Well, not a bad return, Brownie. Not a bad return after
good comeback.
6-week layoff.
Fresh the daisy, and he's just changing from an also run to a premiership contender, hasn't he?
Well, they had a really poor performance the week before, so it sort of was quite stark, you know, with him back in the side compared to when he was, or the week before. But geez, the Dogs have been doing a lot right over the time without really being, you know, without being at the top of the ladder, 7 and 6. But yeah, I don't know, what goal difference would you put on it? I'd say 4 goals better side.
Maybe it makes Norton a better player too.
Yeah, but it's not just on the scoreboard, it's on the players around him.
Yeah. We've hyped him up. Can you go a little bit left of centre for me?
Well, no, I just, from watching the game on Thursday night, it's not often we talk about, you know, a game, it's already been dissected, but I just couldn't help to think of Brian Lake v Tom Hawkins. Like, it was always the play that Hawthorn struggled with, Tom Hawkins. So the recruiting staff and the list management team specifically went out to get someone to play on Tom Hawkins, and they didn't care whether Brian Lake played all season. it ended up being that he played most games. He was only really there for a final when we came up against Geelong and to play on Tom Hawkins. I think of Stewie Dew, came in for a specific reason. Clark Keating, when the Brisbane Lions were performing, came in for that final series. So if you haven't got someone that you think is best matchup for Sam Darcy on your list right now, go and find them.
So mid-season drafts come and gone though. Who's set up for it?
Let's use Hawthorn as the example. They went and got 2 key backs. So if they play the Bulldogs in a final, who plays on Sam Darcy?
So out of the 3, one of them's not playing. Who I think would be probably most suited is Sam Frost.
You'd play Sam Frost on.
So he's got the athletic ability. He's got the speed to go with him. So that's sort of the thinking that I'm going with.
I don't mind it.
Weddle is the one that can do it.
Or a Weddle. But there would be sides out there that they think. Now he's a tough matchup. Don't get me wrong. He's a tough matchup. But if you don't have someone on your list right now that you think has the athletic profile to go with him, go and find them, and you can just keep them on the list for a finals that you may need them for.
Well, it's time to head into the newsroom with John Ralph, and he's got some news on one of Sam Darcy's Bulldogs teammates and a return to training. Ralphie.
Hello, guys. So Jamarra Ugle-Hagan back at the Whitten Oval today, and he believes that he has turned a new page. Now, he has told friends he would now like to play out his full contract at Whitten Oval and the Western Bulldogs next year. That clearly is a departure from reports of recent weeks. He can see a roadmap to a VFL return within weeks, according to him, talking to his friends. Believes that he's fit enough after gym and boxing sessions. He told his teammates today, as he apologised to them, that he had let them down and had to win back their trust in what was a real concession. His club and his camp are committed to seeing this play out. No discussions until the post-season on his future or a potential trade. Clubs are very wary right now, given, of course, his concerns across the season. Now, the Dogs are more realistic. They know he's more likely to be elsewhere. They know he's going to need at least a month of full training before he plays VFL. They also know he needs to stop keeping the company that has got him into trouble. So both the club and Jamarra, they consciously uncoupled. They've decided to have another go at it. There are trust issues, at least on the Western Bulldogs issues side. Brownie, once bitten, twice shy. What do you think the Bulldogs should do from here?
I'd be very surprised if he played this season, and then I think I'd be surprised if he was there next season. The problem is when you have trust issues, and in big games, final last year when there was issues leading into the game, Bevo reportedly didn't want to play him. His leaders convinced him to play him. Obviously, he had a poor night that night. Whenever you break that trust, it's hard to unsee as a coach and as players, isn't it? So, yeah, geez, a long way back. It'd be a remarkable turnaround if he was in the Bulldogs colours, I would have thought. Yeah.
And Ralphie, news around the Bulldogs captain Marcus Bontempelli and his contract.
So he will certainly stay at the Western Bulldogs, but the rumours reached such fever pitch of a link to Collingwood that even the Pies had their heads turned. So my understanding is over the last few weeks and months, they have made a series of overtures just to make sure, a series of text messages. Sure, he doesn't want to come and play at Collingwood and win another premiership there. You could say that the replies back have become even more and more forceful. Don't waste your time. He is staying at the Whitten Oval.